Hi everyone again, and welcome to another episode of the Highland Bullpen. All four of us are here tonight. All four of us are here to hopefully add some education to your watching of baseball. We've done a couple of episodes on Babbel for baseball. That probably sounds alliterative enough. Just to try to say, when you're watching a game of baseball on the TV, you'll hear the commentators say a range of things. It just sound like a foreign language. It is in English, but it's not words that we're probably used to, or it's words we're used to. It's maybe not expressions that we're used to. So we're got a dozen or so things that we'll run through here. We'll try to give you our insight as to what you might hear in the TV. And given I've said Babbel and given I've said baseball, I'm going to kick off with a bunt. So a bunt. So everybody, all the batters, they're all trying to hit the ball. They're trying to hit the ball away from the fielders if the home run out to the park, or to get a hit to land the ball somewhere that they can go and reach base safely. And that usually involves a bit of power, getting the ball far away. A bunt, you're actually doing almost the opposite, in that you're getting the ball into play. You're obviously not fouling it off, but you're not putting it very far. It's far enough away from the catcher. It's far enough away from the pitcher. You know what you're going to do. These guys have got to run for it and throw it to first base whilst you're running along there. So an unusual way of hitting the ball. And I think, as the guys were saying when we were chatting about it, a bunt is also considered like catching, or the phrase a lot of commentators might say is catching the ball with your bat. So rather than hitting it away wildly, it's giving you a chance to add a little bit of confusion to the fielding staff there. Commonly used perhaps when you're trying to move someone on a base as well, if they're looking to, if you've still got a couple of outs left, you might try to do that as well to move somebody on. So we kicked off with that one. Yorkshire Dave, a fly ball. So we hear a fly ball in the commentary.
Well, yeah, fly ball, I suppose, would be a ball hit high in the air, batted ball hit high in the air, usually to the outfield. I think if you hit a high ball into the air in the infield, I think they usually would call that a pop-up, although maybe have we done that definition?
I don't know if we have done pop-up.
I'm already speaking, in my explanation, I'm speaking in other baseball lingo, and then I'm gonna mention something else that there's no way I'm gonna try and explain this, but although a fly ball in the infield is called a pop-up, I think they will, if there's a guy on base, I think sometimes the umpires will invoke the infield fly rule. It's not the infield pop rule, I don't think. Anyway, sorry, I'm confusing the issue. Yes, I think you usually try and bring Ted Williams into the thing. I heard someone say the other night, because I think they were getting fed up of all the ground ball outs in one of the baseball games, and one of the commentators said, yeah, Ted said to hit the ball hard and hit it in the air. Presumably you got more chance if you hit it in the air and it goes over the infield, and it's a much larger area, although quite often the outfielders will run the ball down, and you can even get caught out if the ball is going foul. But yeah, that's it. A ball hit into the air, which usually reaches the outfield.
Yeah, clever stuff. It's yeah, it sounds successful, but yeah. Here's another one, Richard. Back in the dirt.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Now, back of the dirt is something you see it's not that uncommon, but it's when a pitch that's thrown actually bounces on the ground before it reaches home plate. So pitching a baseball at MLB level is a very hard thing to do, and sometimes things can go wrong. So when the ball bounces before it gets to the home plate, before it reaches the batter, that's in the dirt. That's a pitch in the dirt. Now, interesting things about that are actually in Yorkshire Dave, will appreciate this, turns a baseball pitch into a bit of a cricket bowling because the batter can swing and hit. You can hit a ball that's bounced in the dirt first. You're allowed to hit that. It's very, very difficult, but you're allowed to hit it. And so you can advance, and runners on bases can advance it as a live ball. But as I say, you don't see that too often as well. And when much more common is the pitch going in the dirt and ending up back in the umpire's hands to replace it with a clean ball, because any ball that's landed in the dirt and touched the dirt has to be replaced in the game of baseball, largely because any kind of mud or dirt or clay that sticks to it could potentially affect the movement of a baseball, make it move more. I'd also actually read that historically it was also related to an occasion, but a very sad occasion, one of the fatalities that's happened in baseball over the years. I think back in the 20s, around about then, and it was a ball, and the thinking was it wasn't as visible as it should have been because it was caked
Right.
in, and it still had some degree of dirt or mud on it. So they thought that it wasn't as visible to the batter as it might have been. So that and the other reasons about the ball. So every ball that touches the dirt now is replaced before the next pitch is thrown. And finally, we mentioned cricket there, which is one of Yorkshire Dave's favourites. One that Alan will appreciate is swinging at a pitch in the dirt is also referred to in baseball as golfing. So that's one for you,
Right.
Alan, as well.
Yeah.
So that's the story of the a baseball being back in the dirt.
I'll need to try that as well. Yeah, in the west of Scotland, if you try and play golf in the winter, you can sometimes think you're not necessarily always playing in pristine grass, are you? It's could be a wee bit wet and dirty there. So yeah, yeah, and that's quite a bit of historical information on there. This one maybe Dave Jr. might not have the same level of historical information, but the ABS system, the automated ball strike system. So when they're talking about that, tell us a wee bit about what's going on there.
Yeah, so I think we've spoken about it before as a group, with the ABS system coming in this season for the first time in the bigs in the MLB, but the minor leagues have been using it for kind of 6 or 7 years now, and it's went very well. Again, being British football fans, we would perhaps hasten to liken it to VAR, and I would actually argue that it's not. I would actually argue that VAR would be more similar to in baseball when the managers can appeal something, or the crew chiefs can review something, and it goes to New York. It goes to their kind of high-end video systems to actually overturn other things. But the ABS is very, very similar to, if there's any of you that are tennis fans out there, the Hawkeye system, very similar and very fast. So the fantastic thing about the ABS, it really just focuses on if something is a ball or a strike. There's only a designated amount of people that can appeal that in the pitch. The hitter themselves, the pitcher, or the catcher. So again, 2 for the defense and 1 for the offense. It's, I think, from everything that I'm led to believe, pitchers are discouraged from challenging. And catchers and hitters are really the 2 that can dictate that. The feeling behind that is a pitcher can become a little bit emotional about the pitch. Their body's in constant movement,
Yep.
so they can't quite tell if where exactly that pitch has went. So the ABS, to bring it back to what it's actually intended to do, it's really for the hitter. If something's called a strike and they feel it was outside of the strike zone, it can be overturned to become a ball, and vice versa for the catcher or the pitcher. They can quite often turn what's deemed to be a ball into a strike. So the catcher, again, tends to run that through for the defense. They've got that positioning. They can see if they've framed it correctly. And if the ball has entered that strike zone at any point. There's been quite a high success so far this season. Again, a lot of that is down to how quickly the method is introduced in the game. Each team's got 2 challenges. If you are successful in your challenge, you get to retain. If you are unsuccessful, you'll lose your challenges, and in later innings, you can receive extra challenges given that the game is perhaps went into a 10th, 11th, 12th inning. But great system, works really well, and I think all of our teams will have benefited at some point, Alan.
Yeah, that's it. When you talk about VAR is the obvious one to consider too, but actually when you say that, there are comparisons, and maybe a good one because it's automated, so it actually tells you something factual. But it's like when the referees have the watch that tells them if a ball's crossed the line, the goal line. There's no debate. It's he gets a notification and tells him, okay, nobody's challenging that, but he knows immediately, much like this, which is good system. So yeah, back to myself. Something you'll occasionally hear is he goes upstairs, and you think, well, what's going on? Has he been elevated to a managerial position in the team? Is he going to the upper deck of the ballpark to watch the game or whatever? But he goes upstairs, I think, is when the pitcher is throwing high. So rather than saying he's throwing high, you've got a nice wee phrase to say he's gone upstairs. And again, it's just, I don't think, unless you watch baseball, you would never know some of these things. You would just know that through the experience of what that's all about. So yeah, some things make sense, some things don't make sense. Maybe look at a couple of things that might make sense now. And Dave, Yorkshire Dave, looking at, you'll often hear the phrases mixed up together as well. So one I was looking at was like strike on a fastball. So yeah, what's going on there? Because you'll love a bit of complication to things as well, Dave. You can't be satisfied with a one-word query. You've got to have a few things to look at.
Yeah, I'm always mixed up, Alan. A strike on a fastball. Well, I think this is fairly straightforward in as much as this is a pitcher won't always aim for the strike zone. Sometimes he'll use his pitches to try and tempt a batter to swing at a pitch that is outside the strike zone. But yeah, straightforwardly, the commentator will say that was a strike, and he used a fastball in that pitch, and a fastball is exactly as you would imagine. It's a pitcher really at full pelt, just trying to beat the batter with the speed. And these days it can be in the high 90s and even over 100 miles an hour. So especially the relievers and the guys who are closers, they just come on for the last inning and they don't hold anything back. They just beat them with a strike and a fastball. Mixing them up would refer to a pitcher's real strategy, in fact, using his arsenal of pitches, all the different types of pitches, just like a cricketer might use different types of spin or pace on the ball to deceive the batter. And I think this could almost be a full Babbel episode in itself if you had a list of all the descriptions of pitches and trying to explain them. I'll just run through a few and not explain them, but there's a slider, a splitter, a sinker, a curveball, a changeup, a knuckleball, breaking ball, a cutter. So there's all these great descriptions that we can go into in fine detail then. But yeah, that would be so the batter doesn't really know what to expect next. And I think actually there's something later on in that we're going to deal with where it might show that a batter might be trying to predict what the next pitch might be. But yeah, that's it for me on striking a fastball and mixing them up. I think seventh round pick next, is it?
Yeah, Richard, a seventh round pick. Is that you? Have you ever been in that level of picking?
Oh, I suspect in most drafts and most things, I'd be a lot further down the line in seventh, to be honest with you, Alan. But no, the MLB draft has 20 rounds. And so, and as we know, American sports in general is very much the draft system is at the absolute heart of it. So in baseball, 20 rounds in the drafts. So a seventh round pick would be not maybe the elite, not the standouts, not the kind of can't miss kind of prospects that teams would look to try and choose, but still often you can get somebody there who's got a fair bit of talent, and it's a case of they've got some of the tools, and ball clubs will look to think how can we develop the rest of them, or make the most out of the tools that this prospect has. So in the seventh round of that 20 round draft has produced some pretty good players over the years as well. And one for Yorkshire Dave will enjoy. Wade Boggs, legend of the Boston Red Sox, was selected in the seventh round of the draft 50 years ago this year in 1976. So you can still get a good one even in the seventh round of the MLB draft.
Fantastic.
Good,
Great name as well.
That's it. Dave Jr. One out double. So yeah, a couple of things there, but probably it might sound complicated if you've never heard it before, but probably a fairly simple scenario that you'd hear reasonably often in a game.
I was trying to think about just a good way to put it across and not overly complicate it. So I think it's really just keeping it nice and short. The thing with baseball is between pitches, although it can feel quite often it's a game that there's not a lot happening in, there are constant pitches throughout the game. And I think it's just a nice shortened terminology to keep viewers up to date. Now, where I would caveat that is, I think, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but given that a lot of baseball's history probably sits in terms of being commentated on the radio, I wonder if that's just a nice way for commentators to keep the general public up to date. Okay, here comes the fourth pitch, the one out, one out double, and you think to yourself, so in that particular occasion, you've got one man out of the three up in that inning, and the current hitter has hit a double, so they've got to second base. So it's just a quick way of being able to paint that scene for you that there's a man out, the offense have still got two guys to go, and this current hitter has made his way to second base. So again, you can kind of mix that up as much as you want. It can be a 2-out triple, it can be a no outs single.
Yeah,
it's just a really quick way, I think, of grouping together some information and keeping the listener or the viewer up to date.
Yeah, and you made a good observation there about radio commentary, and baseball terminology would have grown up in the world of radio commentary as well. So you can imagine all these guys many moons ago trying to paint that picture for people at home listening under the bed sheets or whatever, the young kid when he should be in bed and got school the next day, or folks around the world listening to baseball. They wanted that picture drawn well, and picture, yes. That's going somewhere else now as well, isn't it? But no, good work. So one of the other ones, one of the odd ones, well, they talk about a sweep as well. And what's a sweep? So in baseball, you're generally playing a series of games against the same team. So one team is traveling for the game. They don't travel for a one-off game. They're going to come for most likely a 3-game series, I think, is the norm. You will get 2- and 4-game series. But if you play somebody in a series and you win every game in that series, you have swept them. So you've got a 3-game sweep or a 4-game sweep or whatever. Obviously, 3-game will be more common to achieve that. And if you get a sweep, the social media or the commentator will then say brooms out, and they're getting the brooms out to sweep it along as well. So some of the things are logical, yet maybe just a little bit bizarre for our mind as well. Yorkshire Dave, you're referencing pitchers, the pitches, what they get and what they may be waiting for, and they're waiting to see what it is. But there is a scenario where the batter is potentially acting before he knows what he's getting, and he's hunting a fastball.
Yeah, yeah, nicely introduced, Alan. Yeah, I think this follows up from what we were saying on strike on a fastball, and this is where the batter is trying to predict what pitch he's going to face, and if he knows what pitch is coming, then he can pretty much decide on how and when he's going to swing. And I think a fastball, a sort of lead-off hitter might come in thinking, well, the pitcher wants to get ahead in the count, and by which I mean they want to start off getting a strike. So quite often the easiest way to do that is just to throw a fastball. So sometimes you will see a batter coming out and being quite aggressive and looking for that fastball, hunting that fastball, and swinging at the first pitch. And it's not unusual to see that work out. And likewise, I'm sort of slightly making this up as I'm going. I don't know whether this is absolutely true or not, but sometimes if they're, yeah, if the batter, if the count is suddenly 3 balls and no strikes, then the pitcher desperately needs a strike, doesn't he? So you would think that the batsman is going to think that he's going to throw a strike here, but traditionally and historically, it's not been the right thing to do. Normally, they don't swing on that 3 balls and no strikes, and that is kind of changing a little bit. Sometimes you see them getting the green light, as they say, to swing at what is very likely going to be a fastball. So yeah, I think there's a couple of occasions when the batter might be able to reasonably confidently predict that he's going to receive a fastball, and that's at the beginning of the count, and then situation where the pitcher desperately needs a strike to get you out, or to put the count in his favor. I hope that did the trick
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah. No, it's good. Good. You built us up to it earlier as well. So yeah, well done. And another everyday word, I guess. Streak, not streaky bacon, not people running onto the pitch having taken their gear off. But streak is you'll see it when you look at the league tables. So no, we don't call them league tables, we call them standings, but they always have the streak mentioned there as well, Richard. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alan. And yeah, a streak is simply a continuous series of achievements with no break in them. So in baseball, there are so many legendary ones, but you can't look far beyond Joe DiMaggio, 56 game hitting streak back in 1941 as well. And can't talk about great hitters without mentioning Ted Williams, as I'm sure Yorkshire Dave would say as well. 84 games on base streak in 1949 as well. But I think for me, the single most impressive one of them all, just because baseball is at its heart still a very physical sport, is got to be Cal Ripken and 2,632 consecutive games. If that doesn't earn you the nickname Iron Man, nothing will. And I think it was previously Lou Gehrig's record that he managed to go past as well. But yeah, just a streak is a consistent, and we've talked earlier on about kind of some of the streaks that Ken McGonigal and others have set as well so far this season as well. So that's what a streak is. They're really exciting and add yet another dimension to the wonderful game of baseball that we love.
yeah, and also I guess like team performance. So that if the team have won the last 3 games or lost the last 3 games, they're on a 3 game streak. And these things are relevant to what's going on. So the next one we've got on the list here, and I've saved this one for you, Dave Jr. Clear the benches. What's that about? Is that somebody coming in and picking the bubble gum up at the end of the game or something?
I think clearing the benches might be my favourite of the lot, and I think it's Yeah, do you know, we quite often have a go at American sports over the years for not having the passion. You know, British sports must do these things better. We're more passionate. We're this and that. But clearing the benches boils down to an incident having taken place on the field, which one or both teams take exception to, and it's just, well, it does turn into handbags a lot of the time. But I think in days gone by, it's really turned into a real physical confrontation on the actual field of play, Alan.
Yeah.
Usually, again, the two that I would liken it to, but you guys have got a bit more experience watching games over the years than I do. But I would imagine the two occasions that happens most would be if a hitter is purposely being hit by pitch. Again, your teammates would then look after you. Quite often the guys come out from your side of the bench and have a go at the pitcher, which naturally, male bravado means that the other bench must come out, and then the relievers start pouring out from the various bullpens. And similar to that, I think might be when someone's sliding into perhaps second, sliding into home. Those two seem to be the ones that sort of bring it about, where they are perhaps being impeded by either the catcher or the second baseman, or perhaps the guy sliding into home or sliding into second might have their studs up a little bit or been a little dangerous. So really everything comes down to, has my teammate been unnecessarily physical? Have they had their physicality threatened a little bit? And it's really just guys, teammates looking out for each other, and on which occasion the benches can clear. Usually results in some ejections, maybe some 1-2 game bans, which might feel a lot if you're talking about Scottish football, but in baseball terms, quite often someone's due a rest day anyway. So, but it can be quite entertaining to watch, even if it does kind of fritter out into nothing, Alan.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like you mentioned about like British football. We need this more passion, but you won't get much better than a hockey fight. And hockey fights are it's like unwritten rules. You're going to do this, and it's like when clear the benches. It's like if there is a fight or a fracas going on, I think the unwritten rule effectively is everybody joins in. Hence why the benches are cleared, really, isn't it? You don't see 4 guys from each team squaring up. Everybody's out there. There might be some guys at the back of the queue, but that's pretty much normal for a wee fight as well, isn't it? So good stuff. Couple of things I was going to mention here. Nothing to do with clearing the benches, but you'll hear the commentator refer to he's safe. So yeah, he's not managed to avoid the bench clearing. He is running down a base. He's running to a base, and he manages to get there before the ball reaches there from the fielding team. And the way the dimensions of the baseball park, the distance between the bases, it is quite difficult. It's almost judged perfectly, so you're going to have this very close race going on there. And if the race is close enough, you might not be able to tell immediately, but the commentator will tell us if the player has reached base as he wished and he is safe. And the exclamation of he's safe. So, yeah, that's a good one you'll hear. And if you're the batting team, you always like to hear that as well. We'll maybe close with a couple of pitchers' goals. We've mentioned in the past some of the guys like Kenley Jansen now at the Tigers, the number of saves he's got. So Dave, Yorkshire Dave, a save?
Yeah, a save which is awarded to a pitcher who comes on at the end of a game to hold a lead, basically, is the simplest way I can put it. Yeah, and I think there's a few requirements in here. The basic one is that the lead must be. There are exceptions to this, by the way. It's like a lot of things in life and in baseball. The more you look at them, the more complex they are. But the basic one is that a closer will come on, say in the 9th inning, with a 3-run or less lead, and if he manages to close that game out if the his team ends up winning, he might give up a run or 2 runs. But if they win and he's pitched at least, I don't think he even has to pitch a whole inning, but he must be the final pitcher to get the save, and he must pitch, I think, at least a third of an inning, so he must get at least one guy out. These are what they call, it sounds though that they're not getting something for nothing. These are what they would call high leverage outs. So the game is on the line here. And yeah, a pitcher will be awarded with a save if he achieves that goal. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and I won't go into them all, but sometimes a pitcher can come on earlier in the game with, say, a much bigger lead than 3 runs. If he keeps the lead and is the final pitcher and they win and is pitched at least 3 innings, in those circumstances, he will also be awarded with a save.
Okay.
And yeah, Alan has rightly mentioned Kenley Jackson. He's got the best record of current pitchers, but the one that they'll probably never catch is the New York Yankees closer Mariano Rivera, who I think finished his career with over 650 saves, which is no mean feat when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a high leverage job there.
Yeah. So yeah, that's last man in. I suppose like the last man on the football pitch, the goalie going to make that save, but in a different context. So and reliever, Richard, that's nothing to do with my aging bladder control and what have you. That's presumably something to do with baseball then.
Yeah, I'm delighted to say it's nothing to do with that whatsoever, Alan. And it is indeed all to do with baseball. A reliever, or to give them their Sunday name, a relief pitcher. It's just a pitcher who comes into the game after the starting pitcher has been taken out. So historically, starters lasted a lot longer into games than they do these days. I mean, back in olden days, they would do the full game more often than not. Then it became something where 7 to 8 innings, and gradually now, probably between 5 and 6 a lot of time is when you see starters being taken out. So relievers come in various shades and types. So you get a long reliever. So say somebody's being hit all over the ballpark, your starting pitcher's being sent to all corners, then you might well have to call on your long reliever. That's a guy who's capable of throwing 3 or more innings, somebody who can handle a lengthy outing. Middle reliever is a guy that's in there kind of 6 or 7 innings. So often it's not a reflection of starter's performance. It's just maybe his pitch count's getting up there. So you need to get a guy in there. Handing over to the setup man. Often Matt Brash does that job for the Mariners. They usually sets the table, handles the 8th inning more often than not, and that sets the stage for the last man, the closer. I know you mentioned there some great ones there, but the closer's that kind of star reliever, usually only pitches the 9th inning to protect usually a narrow lead. Munoz does an amazing job for that for the Mariners as well. As Yorkshire Dave mentioned earlier, they hold nothing back because they know they've only got a relatively short number of pitches, so they tend to throw super fast. You get a lot of the very fastest pitches of the game coming from the closers there. And I guess it's probably appropriate, Alan, that you've kindly allowed me to handle the reliever bit, because I'll be the closer for this episode of Babbel and Baseball here as part of our extra inning series here. And I hope you've enjoyed it, everyone. We'll be back with more baseball, more of the wonderful language, which, as you mentioned earlier on, all came out of radio, because back in radio, you had to paint a picture. You couldn't just say he's thrown a strike, he's caught a ball. You had to find lots of ways to keep those listeners, those little kids listening when they shouldn't be, entertained and listening to baseball there. So thanks to everyone for listening in for this episode.